To discuss the issue as well as Poland's take on it, I am joined by Commander Bartłomiej Pączek, Dean Faculty of Command and Naval Operations, Polish Naval Academy. Good morning, sir. Great having you on. Thank you for being here.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
So let me go back in time for a moment. So in the aftermath of September 11 attacks, NATO has launched Operation Active Endeavour to counter terrorism at sea. And I was wondering if there are any new operations or have been any new operations launched recently in response to some of the recent threats.
Kind of response to the recent threats was a change of way we think on the strategic level. From our Polish perspective, we have undergone a huge work focusing on preparation of so-called strategic concept of maritime security of Poland. This strategic concept of maritime security of Poland has been created as a document developed in collaboration between the Polish Naval Academy, which I am honored to represent, and the Presidential National Security Bureau. The document resulted from the need to ensure Poland's ability to respond to threats emerging as a consequence of dynamically changing conditions in the international environment. The concept included primarily assessment of the maritime security environment, the diagnosis of our state's maritime forces, but also defined the national interests of Poland and our strategic goals in the area of the maritime security. Furthermore, the document recommends directions for the transformation of the national security system, particularly the Polish Navy. And therefore, it focuses on three fundamental areas of human activity at sea, concerning the political military area, economic and social-cultural one, but it also draws ways to take full advantage of Poland's access to the Baltic Sea. Responding to your question about the recent NATO operations, from Poland perspective, and over last years, the Polish Navy itself and Polish maritime forces, in more broader perspective, were kind of neglected. We took part, for example, in already mentioned Operations Active Endeavour in the Mediterranean. But later on, our presence is only partial. It requires a deep modernization of the Polish fleet to use fully the potential of Poland's location at the Baltic Sea with the window to the open ocean.
Right. So Poland is, of course, located, has access to the Baltic Sea, but other countries do too. And Poland's defense minister has recently visited Lithuania, and I was wondering, there has been a lot of talk about securing the border with Belarus, but I was wondering if maritime security is another topic that the leaders of Baltic states should be covering.
Yes, of course. It is kind of obvious to say that seas and oceans undoubtedly constitute kind of lifeblood of the global economic system. And from that perspective, the safety of navigation, safety of so-called SLOCs, the sea lines of communication, is an essential condition for undisturbed development of modern states, not only the Baltic states, not only Poland, but in general. Just to mention that nowadays, nearly 90% of global trade of goods is carried by sea. And from Poland's perspective, such an economic activity at sea, again, from the perspective of other states, covers a number of human activities, such as like offshore mining, fishing, marine energy, tourism, marine construction, and ensuring the safe development of all these areas should be one of the main tasks of contemporary maritime forces, and it should be discussed among allies. In the Baltic area, the fundamental strategic change we have witnessed in recent months is accession of Sweden and Finland to NATO. After Sweden and Finland joined the alliance, the so-called operational freedom of the Russian Baltic fleet forces significantly decreased, and their activities were perceived as threats to freedom of navigation and the recognition of the general principles of the international law of the sea. However, and I have to strongly underline that, the admission of Finland and Sweden to NATO may cause a misperception of the Baltic Sea region as an unthreatened internal area of the alliance. We occasionally name it the NATO lake. I strongly underline, we cannot treat the Baltic Sea, we, Poland and our NATO allies in the area, being solely a NATO lake. We still have a strong presence of Baltic fleet in the area. In accordance to the NATO strategic concept, but also to the strategic maritime security concept of the Republic of Poland, in order to ensure the maritime security of the state, it is crucial to conduct collective defense, of course, through deterrence, which requires possessing various forces, including the Navy, Special Forces, Air Force, to ensure the protection of national interests and fulfillment of allied obligations. Therefore, talks on a political level, on a decision-maker level, is absolutely urgent. As a result, when adapting to the current geopolitical situation in the Baltic region, Poland, we should strive to build a balanced fleet that will have the potential to counteract emerging threats, not only in the military, but also in the non-military sphere.
Right, so you've mentioned this interoperability as a crucial aspect of cooperation also with other countries. So I wonder, are there any new drills coming up, and how is Poland's Navy trying to go about it?
It is worth recalling here that Article 3 of the Washington Treaty indicates the need for the alliance countries to build their own defense capabilities to ensure their own resilience. In terms of both strategic and operational aspects, Poland may not allow a situation in which deterrence and defense of the country will be based solely on the capabilities of the armed forces of the allies. The NATO Maritime Security Strategy states explicitly that the naval forces of no country, including Poland, are able to achieve a strategic deterrence against an adversary with the global power. Therefore, when deciding on the shape of the Polish fleet, we must aspire to the highest possible level of interoperability with the forces of other NATO and EU countries. The recommended size of the Polish fleet is so-called medium-sized fleet, which will be capable of neutralizing threats generated, among others, by the Russian Federation and demonstrating allied solidarity. When you ask about tasks that should be included in the list of tasks generated for the Navy, it should be definitely the conflict prevention, ensuring legal order and safety and security at seas, building and maintaining its combat capabilities, as well as building and maintaining alliances and providing humanitarian aid in modern non-military operations. Nowadays, maritime operations are conducted in the littoral zones mainly. And this category, littoral zones, definitely describes Baltic Sea. They are highly dependent of activities carried out simultaneously on land and in the air. If the provocative actions of Russian Federation, which Russia claims are a response to NATO alleged offensive actions, will lead to an escalation of tensions, the outbreak of a high-intensity conflict in the Baltic region will be a threat to maintaining the non-violation of maritime borders, as well as becoming increasingly important for Poland and the Baltic states in the face of changes in the security environment, in particular in connection with the energy security. We recently witnessed an attack on the Nord Stream pipeline, which not only disrupted the stability of gas supplies to Europe, but it also showed the weakness of the system for protecting this type of facilities. The need to protect critical maritime infrastructure facilities is therefore another issue of high importance, not only for our country and its maritime forces, but for all the alliance in the Baltic region.
Right, but also in more recently, right, in October, there has been this incident, let's say, with the Chinese vessel Polar Bear damaging two undersea cables. And this has been categorized as a gray zone aggression, because it wasn't clear what actually ensued. So my question is, how is Poland and other countries, of course, in this case Sweden, dealing with such threats which are not an outright violence, but perhaps some form of sabotage?
At the moment, the main obstacle to create a closer cooperation between the states is a legal base. We should focus on changing the international regulations as well as a national law regulation in that direction that will broaden the area for the navies to act as a kind of guardians for critical infrastructure objects. At the moment, the company that operates the critical infrastructure object is responsible for identifying threats and taking any precautive steps and reaction steps against any threat that may appear, including the navies and the assessment that they possess in protection systems will definitely increase the security level, and it has already been done. Our navies conduct occasionally surveillance operations looking at the unexploded ordnance objects that may be located close to underwater cables, underwater pipelines. There is an urgent need to build on the NATO alliance level a coherent, compatible database of such an underwater objects and to build a system of constant monitoring of what happens in the vicinity of maritime infrastructure, critical infrastructure objects.
Commander Bartłomiej Pączek, thank you, sir, for being with us this morning and for your insights. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much.